And we are live.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to begin by asking Kevin Beers to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Kevin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks so much, Kevin. So, as I said, good evening to everyone at home. While our focus has unwavered from the students in our district, our year has begun with heavy hearts. So to start this meeting, I'd like to introduce our very good friend and forever colleague, Beth Talbert, a former Board of Education trustee and president. Beth.
Thank you for having me here tonight, Kristen. I know it's a particularly sad time for our district. I'm here because on Thursday, January 7th, former Board of Education trustee member Lisa Nowak passed away. Lisa served as a trustee on the board from 2010 to 2014, and during her tenure, she held positions as treasurer, vice president, and in 2014 as board president. She was a dedicated and hardworking public servant. She's remembered for her financial acumen, her love of reading, her love of all things Detroit, her adventurous travels, and particularly for her commitment to our district. We extend our deepest sympathy to her immediate family, Greg, Erica, Ian, and her precious granddaughter, Nora. Please join me in honoring Lisa's memory with a moment of silence.
Thank you, Beth. We appreciate your support and appreciate you so much being here to deliver this message. Next, I'd like to ask Debbie Fragamenti to please speak. Debbie. Debbie, you're on mute.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening. On December 27th, Rochester Community Schools lost a beloved educator, colleague, and Donna Marie Hepp taught at North Hill Elementary for 24 years, and she is remembered for her exponential love of her students, colleagues, and the community. Our deepest sympathy to her immediate family, Jay, Ben, and Allison, and to the entire North Hill community, past, present, as they honor her loving legacy. Donna will truly be missed throughout our district. In honor of Donna's memory, I respectfully ask that you join us in recognizing a moment.
Thank you, Debbie. Finally, it is with deep sadness that we acknowledge the passing of Ryan Shaner. Ryan was the son of our superintendent, Dr. Robert Shaner. Ryan was loved by all those who knew him. He was fun-loving, bright, and above all, kind. We extend our deepest condolences to the entire Shaner family and to everyone whose lives Ryan touched, including the people with us here on this call. There is no greater loss than the loss of a child. We hold the Shaner family in our thoughts and prayers. Dr. Shaner, we are so sorry for your loss. Please join me in a moment of silence. We appreciate the community's overwhelming show of support during the past week and ask that the community please continue to respect Dr. Shainer's wishes for privacy during this devastating time. Next up, roll calls. Tonight, all board members are present. And our meeting tonight begins with our annual organizational business, which begins with the election of officers and the annual reading of our code of conduct and our code of cooperation for board members and for administration. And this will be followed by our regular business meeting. So first up, we have our election of officers for 2021. We elect officers every January. And so to begin, I'd like to open nominations for board president. Mike.
Okay, I want to nominate Kristen Bull for president. I want to keep Kristen at the helm here because I believe in these tumultuous times that the board should do everything we can to maintain the stability of the organization. The job of president of the Board of Education requires a lot of time and effort and understanding of the people, resources, and processes that are in place to keep the district moving forward. Kristen has already proven herself adept at this job and wouldn't need to learn it the way any of us would if we were to replace her right now. It's even more important now in the absence of Dr. Shainer. I hope, first of all, that Kristen's willing to accept this burden for another year. Kristen, I know that being president takes a significant amount of your time away from your family and your career. And I know that it is stressful on you mentally and emotionally, particularly these days when you bear the brunt of the attacks on decisions that this board makes collectively. It's an awful position to be in right now, but I believe the district is better off if you continue to serve as board president. The district needs your leadership. To my colleagues on the board, I ask that you support this nomination and vote to keep the board's leadership intact. Do this to affirm our solidarity and support of Kristen's efforts over the past year. Do it to show that we trust her to lead us through this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So there needs to be a motion and support. So moved by Mike, supported by Barb. Does anyone else have a nomination for president? So I think next up is I take a nomination to close the nominations for president. Moved by Kevin, supported by Andrea. And I do accept the nomination for president. I appreciate your words, Mike, very much, and appreciate the support of my colleagues. And we have to have a roll call vote for president. So I will call your names, and I'm going to call them in the order that I see you right here, and you will say yes or no. Kevin Beers.
Yes.
Mike Zabit.
Yes.
Scott Muska.
Yes.
Barb Annis.
Yes.
Michelle Butel.
Yes.
Andrea Walker-Lady.
Yes.
Okay, and I will vote yes. I appreciate it. Motion carries 7-0. Next is the election of the Vice President of the Board of Education. So I'll take a motion to open nominations for Vice President. Moved by Scott, seconded by Michelle. Does anyone have a nomination for Vice President tonight? Scott.
Yes, I do. I'd like to nominate Kevin Beers. A lot of the things that Mike said, I think, fit well with that. But one of the things I will add is Kevin Beers is the type of person that speaks loud and clear and is a loud testament to this school district, and that we have a strong bench. You're looking at the responsibility that Debbie is shouldering and taking over a lot of different things. And you look at the entire team from the top to every different building that we have in this district, every school teacher and everything else in between. Our bench is strong. Every organization is not only represented, reflected by its leadership, but also those leaders can build and create and have their ready to move forward at a moment's notice. And I think Kevin Beers is a direct reflection of that, an embodiment of that. And I think that's why he makes a good fit being vice president here. So I would tell you, I think we should vote for it because I'm
Thanks.
gonna
Thanks,
propose
Scott.
it. Yeah.
So moved by Scott and supported by Barb. Does anyone else have a nomination? Seeing none, I will take a motion to close the nominations for vice president. Moved by Michelle, seconded by Andrea. Kevin, do you accept the nomination for vice president?
I accept.
And a roll call vote. Scott,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
myself, I'm a yes vote. Kevin,
Yes.
and that is a 7-0 vote. Next is election of the Secretary of Board of Education. So I will take a motion to open the nominations for secretary, moved by Barb, seconded by Mike. Does anyone have a nomination for secretary?
Krista,
Barb.
I'd like to nominate Michelle Butel for Secretary for the Board of Education. I think that she's obviously shown that she has the tenacity and the eye for detail to do that job, and I appreciate that about her in this role. So I'd love if she would be open to continuing in that role.
Thank you. So moved by Barb, seconded by Andrea. Any other nominations? Seeing none, I will take a motion to close the nominations for secretary. Moved by Kevin, seconded by Barb. Michelle, do you accept the nomination for secretary?
I do.
And roll call vote. Kevin,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Andrea.
Yes.
Myself, I'm a yes. Michelle.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Next is election of the treasurer of the Board of Education. I'll take a motion to open the nominations for treasurer. Moved by Michelle, seconded by Kevin. Does anyone have a nomination for treasurer?
Kristen, I have a nomination. I would like to nominate that we keep Mike Zabit as treasurer, similar to Mike and Scott's reason for nominating. We are in the middle of a difficult time in our district and in our state and in our country, and Mike has continually showed his attention to detail for just the data and the information that it takes to move a district forward and to make sure that we have some security and safety and that financial oversight. So he's done a great job, and I think we need to keep that momentum. So I nominate Mike Zabit.
Thanks for the nomination. So moved by Andrea, seconded by Scott. Does anyone else have a nomination for treasurer? So I'll take a motion to close the nominations for treasurer. Moved by Kevin, seconded by Michelle. Mike, do you accept the nomination of treasurer?
I do.
Roll call vote. Kevin,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Andrea.
Yes.
Myself, I'm a yes. Mike.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Our next item under the organizational part of our meeting is the annual reading of the Code of Cooperation for Conduct among board members and Code of Cooperation for board conduct with administrators. And I will ask Secretary Michelle to please read those documents out loud.
So the first is the Code of Cooperation for Conduct among board members. There are 8 points. 1, board members will share information and concerns with one another. 2, board members will respect one another and members of the community and value others' opinions. 3, board members will be honest when expressing either their own opinions or those of community members. 4, board members are encouraged to offer solutions when they have concerns. 5, disagreements among the board members will be handled through frank, open, and respectful discussion. 6, individual board members have the responsibility to articulate the board's stance to the community. If board members express opinions outside a board meeting, they must be clear that they are expressing their personal opinions and not the opinion of the Board of Education. 7, board deliberations and decisions will take place in open meetings as required by the Open Meetings Act. And 8, the board president will be the spokesperson for the board. The Code of Cooperation for Conduct among board members will be read aloud by the Board of Education Secretary in January of each school year. At that time, the Board of Education members will be asked to sign the document by the president. Next, we have the Code of Cooperation for Board Conduct with Administrators. There are also 8 points here. 1, the board will respect the administration and value other opinions. 2, the board, not individual board members, will direct the superintendent and/or his or her representatives and other district employees. 3, the board will share information and concerns with the administration. 4, questions from board members will be first directed to the superintendent, assistant superintendent for business, and/or the assistant superintendent for curriculum. When emailing questions or comments to the assistant superintendents, board members will copy the superintendent in their emails. 5, when the board raises a topic for discussion, the administration will determine which staff will be responsible for a response and will set a reasonable timeframe. 6, disagreements with the administration will be handled through frank, open, and respectful discussion. 7, the board will concern itself with determining policy and rely on the administration to implement policy, including through the development of regulations. 8, board members will work through administrative channels. And just like the Code of Cooperation with the board, the Code of Cooperation for Board Conduct with Administrators will be read aloud by the Board of Education Secretary in January of each school year. At that time, the Board of Education members will be asked to sign the document by the president. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. So all of you will receive a copy of this to please sign and return to myself. Typically, we would sign this in person at a meeting. So you should look for that later tonight. That concludes the organizational meeting part of our meeting. Next up in our regular business meeting, we will begin with communications. I will mention that this is a public meeting of the Board of Education. It's not a public hearing. We do have opportunities for the public to participate in Zoom. If you'd like to comment on an agenda item, please hit the raise hand button in Zoom. We will send you a form via the chat. You need to fill the form out, and that way we'll know when to call on you. First item is Communications Secretary of the Board of Education, Michelle.
Yes, at this time, the Board of Education has received 11 email communications since the prior meeting through the RCS website. Those include district parent Deanna Harless, 2 emails from Amy Ackerman, and 1 from Jill Schock that contacted the board regarding the desire for in-person instruction. We also received one from Elena Dinverno, who also contacted the board regarding her support for in-person instruction. District parent Meredith McCutcheon contacted the board summarizing her comments from the December 14th, 2020 Board of Education meeting. We received communication from district employee Kathleen Payton, parent Colleen Farley, and grandparents Paul and Mary Ann Kirstein regarding their support of remote learning until safe to return to in-person instruction. We also received communication from community leader Frank Rewald, who contacted the board expressing gratitude for the board's dedication to Rochester Community Schools. In addition, we received emails from the following 8 parents in the district that did not come through the RCS website. And those were received from Andrew Weaver, David Recknagel, Meredith McCutcheon, Elena Dinverno, Kathy Nitz, Debbie Olszewski, Stacy Wolf, and Julie Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I did want to mention also, typically right now we would be hearing from our student representatives to the board. They have January off, so we will be hearing from them in February. Next up is citizens requesting placement on our agenda. We have none tonight who requested to speak under this agenda item. Members of the Board of Education, do any board members have any communications they want to share? All right, let's move on with our meeting. Consent agenda. All matters under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by the Board of Education and will be acted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussion of an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will become the first item of business under a new business portion of the agenda. Item 5.1, current bills payable for December 1st through December 31st, 2020 in the amount of $18,224,608.74. Item 5.2, Board of Education regular meeting minutes for December 14th, 2020. Item 5.3, Board of Education closed meeting minutes for January 7th, 2021. Item 5.4, Title IX policy revisions. Would any board member like to remove an item for discussion? Or would any member of the public like to remove an item for discussion? All right, seeing none. I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Moved by Andrea, seconded by Kevin. Discussion or comment on this consent agenda? Seeing none, we will take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Superintendent committee reports is next up on our agenda. For the first report, I think Matt McDaniel will tell us about his latest meeting. Matt.
Thank you, Madam President. The Superintendent's Business and Operations Committee met on January 7th, 2021 and reviewed the return to school plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And Beth Davis will report on her policy and curriculum committee meeting.
Thank you. The Superintendent's Policy and Curriculum Committee met on January 7th, and we discussed the Return to Learn plan as well as a new course proposal and information about that course. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we are to the new business portion of our agenda, and item 7.1 is the extended COVID-19 learning plan recertification. This is an action item, and I am going to ask our Deputy Superintendent, Debbie Fragomeni, to take this one over.
Yes, and good evening. Thank you, Kristen, and congratulations and thank you to our board who have dedicated and are extending their volunteerism to serve our district with such fidelity. We're very grateful to you as we start this new year, and we thank you for your outpouring of support to our community members and also to our staff, and specifically to those who have lost loved ones in this short period of time. So thank you very much for that. So I'd like to take the opportunity, we do have a brief PowerPoint presentation, thank you for pulling that up, that we can give that information. And as you're aware, we'll begin by just the historical timeline that we have moving forward. We have from June 2nd, where we have been following this and noting it. And the reason we continue to bring this forward is this is a living document of the series of events that have been required through the pandemic. And notably, the last two include Friday, where the governor came forward with a proposal for us to return to an in-person experience for our students beginning by March 1st. So that's listed under Friday. And the January 11th, which is today, is that extended learning plan tentative proposal that we're bringing forward to the Board of Education this evening. We've included this document, and this is the guidance from the Oakland County Health Department. We were anticipating this document from March, and we received it in September as our guidance in terms of determining what the data has projected. Since that time, we've had many different variables and platforms that are coming forward as our medical professionals and medical experts continue to provide guidance ever changing, and including the governor's information on Friday of us looking at multiple platforms for making the decisions to go back to school for our students in person. And so we included this document because I'm under the impression and understanding that we will be expecting more details from the Oakland County Health Department in the days forward, and not just utilizing this metric, but we'll be adjusting that information. So please know tonight, as we were working through this presentation today, that we truly do anticipate there will have to be a lot of communications in the upcoming days and weeks, so that we can continue to monitor closely the landscape of our community, of the county, and of the state of Michigan. Again, this is an artifact of what we were utilizing, and now we understand this will not be the exclusive artifact moving forward. This is from January 9th. Each week, the county provides an update on the COVID-19 summary for our county. And as you will notice that we see for the 9th that there is a slight there is a decrease in the number of cases with our school nurses, our Oakland Health County leaders, our attendants across the county. We're meeting on a regular basis. We're looking at this data very, very carefully, and we are doing this on an everyday basis, monitoring. We're also doing in-district contract tracing, number of quarantines. We have systems set up for employees to register, and those processes and protocols will only continue to be closely monitored in the upcoming weeks as decisions are made and the in-person location comes into play. I can assure you, since the beginning of last week when we returned following the holidays, the communication that we sent to the community was in the spirit of showcasing that we are bringing together a multitude of stakeholders with a multitude of questions, looking for collaboration so that we could move forward. We understand the urgency that the community has. Our staff has an urgency as well. However, we want to ensure that we do this in a safe manner for all and honor and respect everyone's needs and wants. We want your children back in school. We want them to be safe. Our staff are equally in process as well, as you know. Earlier today, I had an opportunity to speak to our to discuss some of these components and the ever-changing information that's coming forward by the health department. Here's another example of the county's trends of moving with the cases. And we note that as of January 11th, and we will continue to monitor, this said January 6th, but we monitor these very, very closely. We will watch the trends moving forward, and that will be based in the decisions that are made for the well-being of all in our community. On Friday, the Michigan Department of Health in Governor Whitmer's presentation talked about the goal to have 70% adults over age 16 vaccinated as quickly as possible. That vaccine information coming forward may have led some families some misinformation that their middle school or high school over 16 could be vaccinated. Vaccinations are still in trials for children of those ages, so not available immediately. However, we were listed as essential workers in education, all of our services, transportation, food service, etc. And this is a document that really displays it very well. 1A includes healthcare professionals and long-term facility cares. Ages 65, 75 and older are getting vaccines. That is still happening today. Our occupational therapists, physical therapists, and speech therapy are scheduling appointments under that 1A guideline so that our special program students will have the healthcare professionals who have had the opportunity to take the vaccination. 1B was also confirmed on Friday. The essential workers in the education sector, as I mentioned, food and agriculture, utilities, police, firefighters, correction officers, and transportation. As we're seeing a trend across the country, the desire may be for high vaccine levels, and the vaccine availability is still underway. So currently, the Oakland County Education pre-K-12 may now have noticed or tried calling for your own personal family or well-being. The Oakland County Health Department currently has a limited vaccine supply. Availability is expected to increase in the upcoming weeks and months, and appointments will increase accordingly. We also mentioned to our colleagues today as well, Rochester Community Schools will not be mandating vaccinations for our staff members. We're strongly encouraging this, but it is not a mandate of our district. And finally, we're committed to continue keeping our community informed of all updates in this purview, and we understand that the vaccine supply from the Oakland County Health Department is working very diligently with the state and the federal government to have more vaccines available as soon as possible. And those appointments will be added to the Oakland County Health webpage. The IT of those pages have been shut down. The mass number coming in have caused it to be shut down. However, there is a link, if you're interested, on the top of the Oakland County Health Department page that you can be notified when appointments would be open for your convenience. Again, the message that we received afternoon was to have all Michigan school districts offer an in-person learning option for students no later than March 1st. It includes opportunities to cohort, to start bringing in programming, and to return to an in-person opportunity of learning for our students. The infection control recommendations are below. You can also find them on the websites as well. Our team has looked at this list honestly, and we will be answering questions and sending more information on details as families are making decisions on how best to keep their families safe. So when feasible, we'll continue to assign children to cohort groups, limiting their interactions to their cohorts to return the number of contacts. Keeping individuals 6 feet apart from one another to the extent feasible, using creative use of space, facilitating distancing. These components that have been listed to date are all commitments that have been made by this organization when we returned in the fall. Providing adequate hand sanitizing supplies and reinforcing proper hand washing techniques. Improving air ventilation. There are opportunities that we are currently working through right now, and further information on the ventilation will be forthcoming. Having students and staff conduct self-screenings for symptoms at home every day before we come to school. Ensure that our school plans are in place and they're in coordination with our local health departments if there's any positive COVID-19 test. Again, we're very grateful to the service of our district. Staff who serve as the county health department, who has designated nurses to help us assist and to streamline all mitigation along with the investigations of cases accordingly. And finally, Our recommendation is to have staff and students who either test positive or close contacts of those who test positive to follow the guidance from the Health Department as well as the MDHHS. Anyone who's considered a close contact of somebody who tests positive but does not have symptoms should continue to quarantine for at least 10 days under CDC guidelines. And what I'm grateful for are the committees that have come together under the COVID-19 task force have been very invested in opportunities to serve our students in the event they're in a quarantine scenario. And I look forward to a brief introduction of what that will look like tonight. And I want to assure you on January 25th, we are scheduled for another board work session where we will do a deeper dive into what that instructional modality will be to help to support our families. Below is the proposed timeline that was sent in the communication to you, into the community today. We remain very committed to the extended COVID-19 learning plan. At this time, can plan to return to in-person learning by cohort in the following phased-in approach. Beginning January 25th, elementary and some special education populations will begin to return to learn in person with their staff. There will staff and students in a hybrid component. And finally, on February 8th, we will invite our high school students to begin this model to return to learn. Please note, again, that these are proposed timelines. This does not mitigate that we are watching the pandemic, which we all understand has not gone away. We're watching for trends, we're watching for guidelines moving forward so that we can make the best possible decisions for the community. Key considerations include the safety, the learning content, the contact time, our food services, transportation, staffing, and stability, along with federal, state, and local guidance, which will be the experts that will guide our decisions. This hybrid model was never meant to be a long-term solution. We've said that before. We acknowledge it again tonight. We are hopeful that many of our populations will progress to a full-day in-person instruction. And with the partnership of the community to help us to mitigate risks, we are very confident we will be able to proceed forward in that event. All plans, however, continue to remain flexible depending on the conditions. We will continue to monitor the impact of COVID-19, the cases within our districts. The safety of children and adults remains our priority.
Thank you, Mrs. Fragamenti. Carrie Lawler, Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Instruction, Concetta Lewis, Executive Director for Special Education, and myself are just going to give a high-level view of the committee conversations that have been ongoing since the last time we met, and also will continue regardless of where we are with in-person. Those conversations with those stakeholder groups will continue even after we get students back to in-person. The main focus of our elementary conversation is focused on the following three items: trying to maximize synchronous time. We know that is the most ideal scenario for our youngest learners. And when you maximize synchronous time, sometimes that increases the amount of asynchronous time. So there's a push and pull there, especially for, again, our youngest students. So our conversation is also focused on how do we improve asynchronous instruction, and that has been ongoing. And we are looking at, we added the iReady Math platform for all of our elementary students. We're looking at, is there a different way to utilize support staff to check in with kids on a more frequent basis? And another thing that we're still discussing is potentially looking at a schedule change. Now, any change that's made to our elementary hybrid, it would not be drastic in nature. And what I mean by that is we will still be using the cohort calendar that we had with AA on Monday, Tuesdays, and then BB on Thursday and Friday. We will not be swapping those cohorts. We did learn in October and into November that by keeping that Monday, Tuesday model, while it's not ideal to have consecutive days off of in-person, we do believe that it did prevent others in classes from being impacted by anybody that was impacted by COVID, a classmate, or that had symptoms. And so, you know, our community has done a wonderful job when we were in person of if a child had a cough, any of those symptoms, they did a great job. They did everything that we asked and they kept them home, and it did prevent us from having to shut down classrooms or cohorts at a whole time. And we need that to continue. So those are the main focuses of our conversations. They'll continue again as we target that 25th for our elementary students to return. The key points will be, you know, continuing to improve that asynchronous instruction, but our focus has to be on maximizing synchronous and getting the best bang for our buck there in a hybrid model. And again, I know I said it earlier, but looking at maybe some different things we can do with staffing, our para support staff potentially connecting with kids. We are also looking at what we learned with our elementary support personnel that we had for students based on their IEP were unable to attend, and the virtual campus was not the right platform for individual learners, and to see if we need to increase that staff as potential caseloads grow and making sure that we're connecting with kids. So those are our main three priorities. We're, as everybody says, we are pushing forward with the hybrid and having our focus on that, knowing it is intended to be a temporary solution as we continue to monitor to see when we will be able to get back kids in a more robust model. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Lawler.
Thanks, Mr. Heitch. At the secondary level, we've had a lot of great conversation. We have a combined committee of our hybrid team and our distance learning team, and they've come together and made some significant changes, I think, to the schedule for secondary hybrid. So that would be grades 6 through 12. The first change is a daily schedule that limits the maskless time, which is AKA lunch. Pretty much and that turned out to be about 4 hours because we had to make the groups so small. So the committee said if we could exchange that time for the opposite cohort to have some teacher contact time virtually, which is the second bullet, that they would prefer that. And so it would allow for every student to have teacher contact time every day, whether it's in person or virtually. So I'm excited about that change. We don't have our times exactly down yet, but it looks like students who come into school, cohort A or B, would be in session for 4 hours, and then they would head home. We would still offer lunches in whatever format that needs to be. And then the teachers would, after their lunch, meet with the opposite cohort, those who are not able to be in school that day. So, and there's a pretty significant amount of time that they're going to be connecting with those students. So we don't have the exact times down yet, but that should be ready here in the next few days. And then the committee is also really trying to provide the clear expectation and communication about what Wednesday looks like. We're still looking at potential different time, a little bit different time in passing for Wednesday. Apparently that's become problematic to have only 5 minutes between classes when kids sometimes stay in classes longer. And then we've already, from the curriculum department, put out a survey to assess what technologies are teachers using that they would like some training on, some additional training on, because we did add quite a few different technologies. We want to make sure that people are using the technologies to their advantage as they're moving through. So it'll look a little bit different at secondary than it did, but we'll still be in cohorts. We are going to have to manipulate those students who attend OTEC to a particular cohort because OTAC through Oakland Schools has arranged cohorts according to district, and everybody who is in Rochester who attends OTAC will attend OTAC classes on Thursdays and Fridays. So if they're in cohort A, that will work. So there's some details that we're still working out, but I believe that we're going to have a really good experience in this new hybrid schedule that will be coming out very soon. So we appreciate your patience, and we have a lot of people on the committee. I think it's 40 or 50 people right now, so including parents, and we're still finalizing the exact time schedules, but we expect to be very short with that decision. And Mrs. Lewis, did you want to talk about the special education?
Yes, good evening, everybody. So we've been working and facilitating meetings with our teacher consultants and our program classroom teams for our students with autism, students with cognitive impairments, some of our SXI students. And what we've learned is that consistency is one of the most important things for those particular groups of students. So we intend to continue with our cohort C for some students where they will continue to come 4 days a week. What we may do, and as you've heard for some of the others, is adjust the time for the day. So even though they would come 4 days, it may not be for as many hours per day in person. But what that would also do is allow some additional time in the afternoon for synchronous remote support for some of those students that maybe have a severe medical condition and are not able to attend school, or students that might have to quarantine or isolate and not attend school. Then they are able to have that consistent contact with the trained professionals that are skilled and expertise in working with those students and working with their needs. So we will do that. And then we may also, if we do that, make some adjustments to the Wednesday schedule based on what we do with the other 4 days in the week. But overall, we want to continue to give those students as much consistent support as possible. And we've even talked about some options for what happens if that worst case scenario comes, so that we can continue to maintain some in-person support for those groups of students as we recognize the importance of that.
Thank you, Concetta. I appreciate that. I'd also like to just mention that we are collaborating in concert with other colleagues throughout the county, and how different school districts are preparing for the return to learn process. It's one of the largest districts in the county. The complexities continue to be thoughtfully planned forward. It's important to assure the community that we are working closely with other district superintendents prior to Dr. Shaner being absent. And I can assure you that the county superintendents are guiding and making sure that we have the most accurate information coming forward as well. But from the information that we have, it is in concert with the majority of the Oakland County school districts to be returning to learn in a module that meets their district's needs in the next upcoming 3 to 4 weeks as well. Matt, can you please speak to our participation rates, please?
Sure. So as promised from the December meeting, we have some updated preliminary participation rates for Thanksgiving week and the month of December. I want to remind everyone that the week is Wednesday through Tuesday, because count day is a Wednesday. That's the start of the week. Looking at participation rates. One thing that we recently learned was that even when there's no school, we still have to report a participation rate. So you'll see that there are several time periods that include either a full or partial holiday break. So November 25th through December 1st, that included the Thanksgiving break, 92.6%, week 97.1%, and then 97. 16th through the 22nd included a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Monday, Tuesday that were part of the holiday break. So we had a 93.4%. Then December 23rd through the 29th, there was no school in session, no opportunity to participate. There was a 0% participation rate.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just a reminder from a conversation in December, and I know our elementary buildings, our building principals sent communication home with families this previous week, that we're in our next assessment window. We will be benchmark assessing again, as we did in the fall, as we have in years past. This is not in response to the pandemic. This is our normal practice with 3 times a year. What is different is we are still attempting to make sure for a majority of our students that those assessments take place remotely, especially as we transition back into a hybrid, so that it does not take away from those moments of in-person learning. Again, we probably won't bat 1,000 with that, and that's okay. We'll be flexible with individual students in classrooms. And then part of our conversation on the 25th will go into a deeper dive as to what our assessment data has shown us so far from our benchmark assessment data in the fall. We touched on briefly. We'll look at that more. We have trained and worked, and we have resources for our teachers to assess our students regardless of environment. So the environment will not dictate our assessment model. What tools a staff member use or the schedule around that will be dictated by the learning environment and the pandemic, but what we are looking and wanting to find out so we can meet the needs of our students does not change. As far as state standardized testing goes, as we know, Michigan applied for a waiver this fall, and it was denied at a federal level. And in terms of MSTEP and other things in the spring, we're still anticipating having those assessments take place. We have not heard anything different. If we get updated information, we will certainly communicate that on, but that is not a district decision. That is a state component from a federal mandate, and only a federal waiver can have those components removed. So as of now, we're anticipating our students taking the MSTEP, the state standardized assessment, in the spring until we hear different. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. And as I mentioned earlier, on January 25th, we will be discussing our continuous improvement instruction model, along with the student achievement data that we have to bring forthcoming at that time. We are welcome to clarify any questions that you may have at this time, and any information that we do not have, we are happy to share that, compile that, and make sure that the community also has that moving forward.
Thank you to our team. What questions does the Board of Education have? Or comments? Mike?
Thank you, Debbie, Corey, Carrie, and Gonzetta for that presentation. I just want to make sure there's clear understanding that we are this evening recertifying the plan that we approved in October, right? And there are no substantive changes to that plan. In fact, that plan was designed for maximum flexibility so that we can switch instructional modalities as needed, depending on the conditions, right? That is what we're approving.
That's correct. Yes. If you recall our initial presentation of that plan, it included all 3 potential learning modules that we may be in this year in response to the pandemic, with a enhanced remote. We even included the information for a virtual campus and a hybrid learning model. So those remain the same. Those remain encapsulated within the document that is presented before you tonight. If there are schedule changes or we make updates to the schedules, we will certainly include that moving forward. But the key piece is that every learning model that our students may be, whether it's health or choice, may be participating in this year, have been included in that plan since October.
You guys are making changes to the schedule in consultation with the teachers and administrative staff and parents even, to improve the experience, right? You're trying to make things better as best you can. given the circumstances, right? And I mean, right, Corey?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And we continue to expand. As a matter of fact, Dan Mooney and Todd, I can never say his last name appropriately, so I apologize. Coach Cal from Rochester Adams, who have been spearheading the distance learning and hybrid work, actually had student focus groups recently between middle school and high school students to gather their input of what's going well, what's not going well from the student perspective. So we're even getting the voices of our students to try to maximize and improve this model as best as we can based on the information we have at the time.
And there is a change going to happen, though, on the state level. I think, Debbie, you brought it up. We're currently following the guidance from the Oakland County Health Division. And they said that they're saying that guidance is kind of passé and there's new guidance coming out.
Correct. Correct.
We don't know what that looks like.
We have not received it as of today, but we do anticipate that information with if there will be protocols that we need to prepare for, along with other guidance in terms of level of cases and the ability to stay in school. At this moment, we do not have that information, but we anticipate it.
But so there will be a change here shortly. We just don't know what it's going to be yet.
As of today, correct.
Okay. One last thing. The phase-in. What is the rationale for starting with lower L and then middle school, or elementary and then middle school and then going to high school? Why aren't we just starting everybody all at once?
Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, a lot of the discussion we had on that is we're trying to set ourselves up for as much success as we can. And the ability to bring in one level at a time, we feel does that. Obviously, I think you could make arguments on either side, but we know that we can focus for that initial week of making sure that our students are returning, our staff is understanding the protocols that we had, that we get back into that rhythm before we add another level. Because, we're not just talking about putting kids in seats. We're talking about food service, we're talking about transportation, we're talking about student screeners, we're talking about contact tracing, we're talking about all of those other parts of the ecology that comes with adding one student to a classroom, let alone 15,000. So we still believe that phasing in, and yes, we've done this. We had a short lifespan as a K-12 system. Elementary was longer than our secondary colleagues during that time, our secondary students in the fall. We have lived it, we have experienced it, but we need to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for as much success as possible so that we, in an unstable environment, try to make it as stable as possible.
Thanks, Corey. I appreciate that answer. And thank all of you for the efforts that you've made, and thank the committee for us too. I think that's quite a bit of work that those guys are doing.
Other comments or questions? Michelle.
I can't remember if it was Corey or Carrie and maybe it was Debbie, who had started and commented a little bit, but can you talk a little bit more about what we're doing to help students who may have to quarantine keep up with their classes?
Well, at the secondary level, one of the things that we're doing is making sure that there's teacher contact time daily. So if a student had to be home, they could at least tune in to the afternoon portion for the students who are in the cohort that's at home, and still stay in tune with that class. Everybody is using Google Classroom, which is also helpful. So students are able to follow along on Google Classroom and maintain some contact with the teacher. So and we're still looking at the purchase of some more technology that right now the high schools have access to something called Nearpod, and there are a few other examples of that. But we're looking at purchasing that for maybe grades 3 through 12 instead of just high school right now, for the middle schools to be able to leverage that as a way to stay connected with students, even if they have to be at home. So a lot of different options on the table right now, but the primary one at secondary is that there is time for them to jump onto a Zoom with their teacher every day. So.
And there's time built into the schedule we currently have from the October for an end of the day check-in at elementary. It's not the greatest length of time, but it does exist for those check-ins to happen. But we've taken the approach of, depending on situation, of looking at alternative staffing and different, having different staff throughout the district support students who may be quarantined for an extended period of time, or maybe remote for a different reason as well. One of the other things that we discovered in October was, it really was also a case-by-case basis. So it did require a lot of communication between teacher and parent as well. That naturally happened in terms of what was best for that student and what was best for that family. So even with certain resources that were available for that student to have check-in, or individual students to have check-in, for some families that did not work or did not seem ideal for them. So we looked at alternative methods. So even when we know, and I think we've already said the word flexible 10 times tonight, and I'm sure that'll be a word we never want to say again moving forward, but even when we have a plan or a system in place, we know that we're still going to have individual conversations to see what could possibly work for that family.
I had one other question that has more to do kind of with the vaccine portion of information that you had presented today. And I think we all know there's a shortage in Oakland County at the moment, but everywhere I seem to look online, it talks about anyone who is in those the categories that fall into 1B, they're to contact their employer. So my question, I guess, is, have we had conversations with Oakland County Health Department, and has there been any discussion of, as they receive more vaccines, setting up something that would be a distribution within our district for our employees? Has there been any discussion like that, or is it just simply a matter of trying to get the spots that open up as they open up?
Can I speak to that, Michelle? Because I actually reached out to Dave Coulter, the Oakland County commissioner or executive, and asked, why aren't school districts being targeted as centers for vaccine rollout? And his answer 2 days ago was basically it had to do with the lack of availability, at least now anyway. But I did suggest that at least in Oakland County, we have how many school districts? I believe 23 school districts within Oakland County that could be looked at as, a hub in a community that could be a vaccination distribution center. So it's something that I know I personally have reached out to the county commissioner and suggested, and was initially told that, at least for now, it has to do with the lack of quantity and availability for that to happen. But I agree with you, Michelle, and that's why I reached out, because I feel like if we want to make sure that as many staff who want to see, want this vaccination have that availability, it seems like a very smart solution to partner with Oakland County and try and get that into districts so that they can be the center point of that distribution.
Debbie, can you speak to that? I know you've been on many calls about this.
Absolutely. And Barb, I appreciate you doing the follow-up conversation. I also reached out before the holidays to offer Rochester Community Schools as a site to be able to bring in these vaccines. And not only before we understood that there weren't enough vaccines, Oakland County over the last 3 weeks receives 1,950 per week. That's the total number that are coming in at this point. But in terms of the vaccines that are available in our county and our region right now, it's the Pfizer vaccine. which requires specialized freezers, Celsius or below zero, to keep stored. And when they are taken out of those freezers, there's a short window for them, 5 hours, I believe, before they would expire. So we don't have the capacity in our schools for the particular vaccine that is most currently available in our community. But I did ask.
It just goes to show you that great minds think alike, right?
Yeah.
Kristen, if I may add, our school nurse, Tanya Regmont, has reached out to the Oakland County Health Division and has had contact with the epidemiologist and the and also working in conjunction with Oakland schools to try to work toward some sort of a more focused district-based distribution as well. So everyone is working diligently to try to make sure that our employees have the opportunities to get the vaccination should they wish to.
And I think that all of us agree that that should be a top priority right now, is trying to facilitate helping them in whatever way makes sense. And if it's calling the county every day or, whatever we can do, I think that that is one of our top needs as a district right now, to make sure that our employees have access.
Mhm.
Other questions or comments from board members?
I have a question. So one less, it's not specific, more layman's term, but if I'm a person that really wants to get my child back into class, and I've been wanting that for a long time, what's the thing about this particular move and this plan that makes me feel like, okay, we're making a step in the right direction, and it's something that's hopeful for me as we move forward to try to get back to in-person learning? And then at the same time, if I'm also on the other end of the spectrum, or if I'm a parent, I'm like, man, I don't want to put my kid back in school right now. I'm just not feeling it. What's something that they can look at and say, you know what, I'm going to feel good about this? What are the things that address those two thoughts in this plan, in your opinion?
Let's take those one at a time. So let's take that as a two-part question. So first, to Scott, to your first point of someone who wants their child back in school full time.
I can speak to at least.
I'm happy to chime in.
Debbie's frozen.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, so at the secondary level, so those parents who are anxious to get their kids back in school, we also heard from parents who are on our committee, particularly the hybrid and distance learning committee, that they're not anxious to have students step into something and then like it doesn't work and they step out again, like what happened in October, November. And so they would rather, because there is more contact time in our current remote setting. And so for those upper level classes, they're getting more remote time, more time with their teacher in remote. So the reason that we have to do the hybrid first is just, if you look at the list of things that the governor laid out again on Friday, trying to socially distance the students, and that's just not possible when you have 1,500 in a building. So bringing in half or one cohort at a time, half the students at a time, is at least getting them into the building. And then if that works, we want that to be a really quick step into full time, where we have all the students together. And we'll probably still stay with our plan of the 3 class periods a day, longer class periods. Obviously at that point we would have to reintroduce lunch. And so that it is considered a stepping stone to move from totally remote to totally in person. It's getting everybody used to following the protocols, wearing the mask all day, walking the right way in the hallway, avoiding big gatherings, and getting that to work at half level before we get it to work at full level. So that makes sense. So I think that's what, to me, that's very hopeful. And there's nobody who, in our whole team who doesn't want to see us back to some semblance of normal and everybody together. So I think that's, it's a hope, it's a step in the right direction, but we don't want to do it too fast. And that's why our most advanced learners, our high school students, making them the last ones in the cohort, they're maximizing that time in remote until they step into this hybrid, and hopefully they'll have the shortest amount of time in a hybrid setting.
Yeah, I think that all of us on
Thank
this
you.
call here agree that the hybrid schedule is not our preference. I mean, it is designed to be a stepping stone to full in person when that's possible. So now to the second part of Scott's question, which I think is a really good one, and that is to address the parents in the community that don't want, that are nervous about their students going back, or maybe feel more comfortable in a remote setting.
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit, and obviously let's take some support from the team here. The secondary just finished up their big conversation with the community in terms of learning environment and platform that students prefer and families would like for their child, because it's the semester. As the elementary, we're in the trimester calendar, and we did our first transition in October into November, and we're gearing up towards the end of our second trimester. Now, a couple things here based on where our return with the hybrid falls is about a month ahead of the end of the trimester. So we will probably move our conversation up with our elementary families within the next few days to see what their preference is. And that serves two purposes. Number one, if our families really would prefer to stay virtual, they know that we can honor that, and they may not feel like they're forced to make a choice that they do not want to for a month until that transition can happen. But it also serves a purpose on the in-person side. One of the things that at the elementary we can control much better in the temporary hybrid is our contacts. We're in self-contained classrooms. With cohorting, we have a better chance of being at a better 50-50 split. It's not ever going to be 50-50, but we are in a better position to control that. We know the movements throughout the day of our elementary students because of that self-contained component. So it's important that we know how many students we're going to service, because if we get in a situation where we welcome students back the 25th, and communicate part of the reasons, to Scott's point, the confidence that we have that this can be stable is based on the numbers of kids that we believe we can distance and keep track of and monitor. So we're going to have an idea of how many kids we're going to service. So at least on the elementary side, we want to move that conversation up and not wait until the end of February and not live into the hybrid for a month. Again, it'll also give us a better idea of what we believe we could do as we transition and work towards 5 days of full in-person instruction, and see if we have any hot spots that would really limit what we're able to mitigate based on class size when we bring the cohorts together. And as always, and our administrators are great and participate in these conversations all year. They haven't stopped, which we anticipate. But if there is a family member or community member that has a question about the different learning platforms, what may be best, how to best proceed, we encourage them just to talk with the building principal and to get all of the information that is available to them.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from board members? Andrea.
Yeah, just quickly, I know that we talked briefly about this in our committee meetings last week, and wanted to find out, as we've all said, we know that having our students back full-time and in person is the goal, right? Debbie, you had a chance to speak with teachers and administrators today and kind of let them know this rollout plan. One of the things that I think is important for us to remember as a board and as a community is that juxtaposition we're in between serving the community of students that we serve and also serving a community of staff and teachers as an employer, right? As one of Oakland County's largest employers in this district. How can you tell us a sense of how they were feeling with, obviously some anxiousness of those who want the vaccine and are ready to get it. But how are they feeling about this plan and the positivity about getting back in person and in front of students? I know that's probably across the board with them, as it's across the board with everyone. Everyone falls in a different spot of how they feel about being with others right now. So how are they feeling about being back in front of classrooms of students?
I think we lost, I think we might have lost Mrs.
Yeah.
Fargamoni.
Yeah.
I think that we did, and I what we're hearing, and we did not get an opportunity to talk with the teachers after we met with them at 3:00, and that was sort of a one-way dialogue. But what we have heard from Doug Hill and representatives is, again, an extreme anxiousness to really get the kids back and just to get things, back to normal, but a huge amount of caution about not doing it too soon and not, allowing us to become spreaders of the virus. And so there's the same as everybody else, that push pull. They want to be in school, but they want to be safe. And that's what the teachers have been pretty consistent in that message.
Thank you.
Thanks. So one of my questions and comments was that I know that there are potential schedule changes to the hybrid schedule, potentially could come down in the next couple days as committees continue to meet.
Yep.
When do you think that, I guess, what is the best case scenario for when that will be communicated to parents? Because I do want to make sure our parents have plans in place. I imagine especially if it impacts pickup time, for example, of their kids, we need to make sure that they have a lot of notification on that to make plans with their work or with someone picking them up. What's the next step for that? And when can our community expect to hear?
For the secondary committee that's meeting, we're trying to meet one more time this week and have it finalized. And we really hope to have something out by Friday. So Monday at the latest, but we're really hoping for Friday for that communication to be able to come out. And then Corey, are you guys meeting again this week as well?
Yes, we are. And what I would say is that anything that's tangible that would really, from my lens as an elementary parent, and then also as somebody that has a focus on elementary, anything that could really have a tangible change to somebody's childcare plans that maybe would be different from October. In the schedule we had there, that would be communicated ASAP. I do not anticipate that has not been that big of a conversation that we've had at the committee level. And again, to kind of just some background in terms of, every schedule change has implications on every single other part of the district. So, one of the models that we hear a lot about and see for districts that started with a hybrid at the elementary was a true half day. And we hear that a lot, but if we look at a true half day to increase something else, we can't transport kids in a K-12 system with a true half day model. So that all of those pieces have to be a consideration. But back to your original question, if there's major changes, which I do not anticipate, those would be communicated ASAP to give families as much time as possible. And the other thing that I don't know, we don't know our family situations. Maybe cohort A does not work for them anymore because of a work schedule, and cohort B would better suit them. So for those situations, we should say as well, contact your building principal at the elementary level. If you were cohort A, regardless of, 5 minutes here or there, 10 minutes here or there. If you're cohort A in October, you're cohort A in January as of now. So if something needs to change or you need to evaluate something different, please contact your building principal.
That's true at secondary as well.
Thank you, Carrie and Corey. I apologize to the community for my lack of connectivity, so I appreciate you standing in to share that information. Also, I would like to just remind the community to provide some assurances that meals to go will continue throughout. No matter if there is not a lunch at school, they will be available as they have been in the past. I think that's important because that is a priority, and many of our community members are taking advantage of having that privilege to do so, and you deserve that. So it's important to say that. And then just the other piece that I would just like to speak to just briefly in terms of the social emotional learning of our students. Please understand that we are not showcasing that this model is ideal. We are in a world pandemic, and we are working to be in a continuous improvement plan because we do want to honor the relationships and the wellness of our students and of our staff members that are serving them as well. So as we roll out this recommendation and this proposal, it's a proactive measure that we are taking as a complete system so that as we stabilize, we can continue to keep our students in school healthy and not in jeopardy of having to do a shutdown. I just would like to add that. Thank you.
Thank you for adding that. Thank you. That was well said and summarized.
Even with lack of connectivity, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? So we do have time for public comment on this issue. I do have a couple people who have raised their hand to speak about this topic in particular. So I will call on you and unmute you, allow you to talk. So you'll have 3 minutes to speak. If you can begin by stating your name and your relationship to the district. Again, if you're raising your hand, you'll receive a form to fill out. Please fill out the form and then we will unmute you. So first on my list is David Recknagel.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
David, we hear you. Yep.
Great, thank you. Again, David Recknagel. I'm a parent of a sophomore who goes to Stony Creek High School. So I just wanted to first of all thank everybody on the board. You have a tremendously difficult job. So I appreciate it. And I just want to start out by just making a couple comments. I don't know how many of you have been involved or have family members or anyone else who deals in the OEM automotive space. But if you don't and you have the opportunity to go visit a plant, I would highly encourage you to do it as soon as you can. If you can't get into one, I can get you into one anywhere in Michigan, specifically even General Motors. The reason I say this is because they can move people in and out of those plants safely, and they have been since probably the June timeframe with minimal COVID outbreaks. And the way they do it is very simple, it's very cost effective, and it's honestly, it's pretty ingenious. And the contract tracing they can actually employ is also very strong. I'll leave that at that. I only have 3 minutes. I just wanted to leave that out there because as you look at your plans, as a concerned parent, I want my kid back in school tomorrow. Like, I want my kid back learning with his peers, back engaging with his and teachers, because that's how we build leaders. We don't build leaders through isolation. These kids aren't built for that. They don't have the mental toughness yet. This is what develops that. And they don't have maturity. Every kid's different, okay? Some of them are going to grow through this experience, which is actually a good thing. Mine in particular, been through a lot of challenges. This is gonna help them be even prepared in the future. But what I want to encourage this board to do is keep focused on the kids. To me, that's your major focus. And I'll just tell you, I'm really disappointed that we're not able to compete with the other school districts. Someone said, I don't know who said it, that you were talking to other districts. Well, other districts are back on the 19th. So if this was a sporting event, we just got our clocks cleaned because we're not getting back at the same time frame as Lake Orion, as Oxford, Clarkston, West Bloomfield, or Mount Clemens. So the score is 0 to, I'll make it up, but we're not putting anything on our scoreboard. Those kids get a jump back into in-person learning. I don't like to lose. And my kid is losing. If you compare us to the private schools, you compare us to other schools, they never even skipped a beat. I know there's concerned parents out there, and I appreciate that. And I think there's a solution for them too. I just don't think you've given a solution for parents that literally want their kid back in school. And that's my only feedback. The damage has been done. The decisions have been made. We're getting to the finish line. I just want to see us move extremely fast. And that's my only message to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Next up, I have Nina Ignazik. Nina.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So in contrast to the prior speaker, I don't view this as a sporting event or a competition to win and beat all the other districts. I view this as getting through a global pandemic, hopefully the only one in our lifetime, safe and alive and secure in our families. So I'm just hoping that, as you all move forward with this, you can provide some more information about the second point, which I really did not understand the answer to, that Corey spoke to. What are the options for parents who just feel that this is still too fast, still too soon? Vaccines like trickling out, we're not there yet. We've got a new variant that's going to probably be spreading faster, possibly. I'm one of those parents. I don't want to do it yet. I don't see the point. If I don't have to, why should I? So I guess my question is, now that we're addressing the governor's, whatever it is she issued, mandate or suggestion that we all are in person by March 1st, now that we know what you're planning to offer for those parents, what are we planning to do for the families that feel like we do? The virtual campus, I reached out to find out about enrolling in it before the holidays and never received a response back. The website hasn't been updated since October. What are the options? Is it strictly virtual campus? Is there a way to interact with this hybrid model going forward, now that we've thrown the Oakland County Health Department guidance out the window? What decision points will you be addressing to decide if things are fast approaching needing to shut down again? All of those are really questions that I think are still unanswered. But the primary question is, what is going to make a family like mine able to continue through the end of the year? What are our options at this point? It seems like we're being forced into the virtual campus. If that is still an option, how do we find out about it? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Andrew Weaver.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
So my name's Andrew Weaver. I have two sons at Brooklands. I actually think the two speakers that just spoke actually paint a perfect picture in the situation that the board has created. You've pitted parents against each other. Those are two parents that both just want the best for their community. This was solvable. And it's been something we've pointed out all along. But yet, Kristen, you'd rather go to the media and lie, because you just were quoted in an article stating that we get emails weekly for updates. I certainly don't. No parent I found that gets those emails. So instead of dealing with the issues, those are two parents that addressed the problem that was created. The virtual campus was the online option. It doesn't meet the needs of parents that want online. You won't address the mistakes that were made with the virtual campus. And that has delayed our kids going back to school. It is pride and ego. That's all this has come down to. And the idea that you guys talk to the community, here we sit in January and you still have not conducted a survey, a simple survey. These are easy tasks. 40 to 50 members on a committee. Look up any stats on the size of committees that are effective. You're never going to find ones that have 40 or 50 members on them. This is stuff that is just unreal. And again, parents, this is not to be critical just to be critical. Any one of us, if this was going on in businesses that we worked in, this wouldn't be acceptable. And yet we listen to people just patting themselves on the back. I mean, we're watching our society live in this world of just people believing stuff, the truth, because they say it's true. We all can see that this is not working. And again, I go back to the two parents that just spoke are a perfect example of people in our community that want to find solutions. And this could have been done. We are in January, and to think stuff that you guys are talking about isn't done already, you are waiting for direction. That is not leadership. Schools are going back because their schools made decisions. They had leaders. And yes, they might have made wrong decisions. They might be held accountable for them. But that's leadership. What everyone is doing here is not leadership. You are waiting for someone else to take responsibility. You're waiting for the county to make a decision. You're waiting for the governor to make a decision. This is absolutely mind-blowing at this point. I mean, I really, it's just beyond frustrating that our kids are still suffering. Kids are not being educated, and you don't have a plan. Giving the superintendent the option to pick whatever he wants from three different options is not a plan. That is the board not taking its responsibility.
You have 10 seconds, Andrew.
I'm done.
Next up, I have Elena Dinverno.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening. I just wanted to address the board. I loved Andrew's statement and truly agree with what he is saying as far as the two communities that really are looking for our students to go back in person and have a valuable and meaningful virtual option for those that want that. You all have been hearing from us for months. You've been hearing that all we want is a quality education for our students. Our taxes pay for the education that our students are not receiving. And just like Andrew said, it's time to make decisions. It's time to allow parents the education that their children deserve. It's time to allow our children the time to receive the mental health and the benefits of community, which is what we have been built to be in as a society, not be isolated. It's proven that private schools are doing it. It's proven that other states are doing it. I have not heard from one board member about benchmarking what other states are doing currently. And just like Andrew said, there are other communities that are doing it very well and have been doing it for a very long time, even in a public school setting. The other piece that I would like to address is that I was misrepresented in the beginning of the meeting when the note that I was sent to the Board of Education was about wanting to return in person. Yes, I would like my children to return in person for public school. I recently pulled my children out of the Rochester School District because of your lack of ability to provide a quality education for our students. I'm hoping to return them to Rochester schools in the future. However, there's also activity that's happening with the Board of Education where parents who are vocal, and maybe their opinion is different from what you believe, where you are reporting parents to their employers. And that's what my note addressed.
That simply did not happen, what you're talking about. And this is not a forum for any kind of personal attack or misrepresentation. So if you're going to stick to, yes, it is.
This is not a personal attack.
And
my letter was attached.
And it strays from the task at hand, which is talking about what we were talking about in the meeting. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education. And so
and you put my letter on the Public Education Board website.
You can save it for Facebook.
It's not for Facebook, sir. This is for a letter that was put on a public forum. Your forum put my letter on there, and it does affect what's happening in our community. So it does stay in line with what's being communicated currently.
Thank you.
That is not a difference.
Thank you. Next up, I have Libby Honig. Libby,
Hi there.
you should be unmuted.
Yep. Am I good?
Yes.
Thank you, Kristen. Good evening, everyone. My name is Libby Honig. I'm a parent of 2 secondary students in the district. I appreciate everyone's passions and how much everybody cares for their students and the students of this district. And I'm sure that everyone is grateful today that those students who can will be back in person soon. I wish that I could be excited about that as an option for my family. However, we've chosen virtual for health and safety reasons. And as a family who has made the choice to put our kids in the virtual option, I do feel the need to draw attention to the virtual campus and the many, many students that are not being talked about. There are great administrators and teachers and thousands of kids who are not getting the same level of attention that the in-person students have been given when it comes to revisions in approaches, technologies, and scholastic planning. I understand the community pressure that's put on you all for getting back into in-person has been tremendous. However, at the same time, you still have thousands of students relying on virtual today, and to provide them with a world-class education, and the virtual campus is intended to be a permanent offering. Yet it does not seem to be getting the same end-to-end review and assurances for that quality of technology engagement or balanced workloads. My family has made the personal choice to keep our children virtual because we are fortunate to have jobs that allow for it and kids who have been blessed with resilience and flexibility. But there are real struggles that we are all experiencing that do not seem to be getting the same level of attention at the district level that the in-person and remote solutions are getting. Virtual families have made a different choice than those choosing in person, but not necessarily an easier or a better one. We make that choice for a variety of reasons, many of which are incredibly serious and potentially life-threatening if our families were to become exposed to the virus. That doesn't lessen our children's need for that high quality education. I would like to encourage the board and district as a whole to turn open eyes to those thousands of kids that aren't getting talked about because the parents aren't protesting, threatening, or publicly complaining. And I'm not saying that those parents that are doing those things are wrong. We are all advocating for our students. But those of us that are maybe going about it in a different way also need to have the attention given to our students. Please do not ignore this part of your district. Please do not ignore these teachers or administrators. Please do not ignore these kids. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Next, I have Jamie Moore. Jamie, you should be unmuted.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'm the parent of a first grader. The mental health and education of our children are suffering. This is nothing against our absolutely wonderful teachers. They are amazing and doing the best job. They are kind and understanding during this time. It is just not healthy to sit a 6-year-old or probably any kid in front of the computer a majority of the day. Other similar sized neighboring districts such as Troy, who are currently virtual, have already released plans to return January 19th, many close to full time. I'm disappointed we will be later, following rather than leading the way. I was also disappointed to read in the board packet that Board of Education members may be contacting the employers of parents who disagree with the board's decision to not provide in-person instruction. Thank you for your time and for those who are working to get our younger and at-need learners back in school. Thank you.
Lori Baggett. Lori, you should be unmuted.
Thank you so much. I'm Lori Baggett, and I have 2 secondary students in the district. I guess my comment is I really wanted to know what changed. What has changed in the community? You know, we still have cases. We don't have a vaccine out. I know that the governor talked about March 1st, but you know, now we're talking about going back to hybrid. So what has changed in our community that we're now bringing students back into school? I don't see a lot of difference between, I guess now, I know we know a little bit more about this virus. We certainly know that, you know, kids have a very low risk of getting it and a low risk of suffering from it, which of course is a good thing. We also know numbers, you know, success rate and, you know, death rates. We know, you know, numbers of people who recover pretty well from it. So I know that we know more today, but certainly we will know more in 3 months from now. So I'm, you know, I'm wondering what has changed other than direction from the governor. The second thing I wanted to tell you is I'm returning from Florida, where I've been for about 3 weeks. Florida schools are back 5 days a week, and most of them have never missed a day. I'm driving past these high schools full of cars for their school, the students, 5 days a week. All of my friends' kids have been back. Yes, they've had cases, and those certain number of kids have sat out. They've been able to zoom in on the in-classroom teaching so that they don't miss anything for that particular day if those kids are quarantining. But, my son has a best friend, never missed 1 day of school yet. My kid has had 1 day of in-person learning. So it is time to expand your view outside the state, maybe see what other states are doing. Florida and Michigan have about the same number of cases. Actually, Florida has a lot more cases right now. So, maybe it's time to start looking at other models, because again, it's a real disservice for our kids not to be in person, not to be learning like their peers, and not to be able to be competitive when it's time to apply for college. And you have missed education, you're not going to be on par with peers. And I don't need to address the mental health thing, because it is certainly there. We certainly all recognize it. My kids have definitely improved in the ability to see their friends. I would like them to continue on that when we return to Michigan. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, I see a hand raised, Barb. I think this is Barb Lindeblad. Barb, you should be unmuted.
Okay. Hi, my name is Barb Lindeblad, and I have 2 elementary school children, 1st grade and 3rd grade. And I just want to thank all the teachers, especially my students' teachers, because that's who I've been dealing with. And they have been doing the best that they can with what they have. Now, with that said, I'm actually a little disappointed with the lack of communication about specific dates and like plans. Like, what does the district have as a plan as to when's the next reassessment? While I have been extremely lucky to have a job that's been really flexible with me, I do have to go in person. And I have wonderful neighbors that have been actually really great for me as well. But it's becoming to be too much money. And my job is not going to be flexible in the future like this. I don't have the opportunity or the option for leaving my job or quitting. So I just want to know why other districts have dates, specific dates where there is a reassessment of where they're going to go from in the future. I also wanted to say that why haven't parents been surveyed? I've heard many districts having their parents surveyed, parents and students surveyed. I haven't gotten one survey except for in the summer. I do feel like I deserve the chance to speak, and not just on this platform, but in general. I do feel like a lot of other parents feel the same way, and that might have helped some of this anger that some parents have had, but I do feel like it might help with communication. These surveys I know are not meant to, at least in my case, I just want to voice my opinion. I want to voice what my concerns are. I have a 1st grade daughter that can barely read and write, and it's very concerning to me, no matter how much time I spend with her. She's not getting the proper education she should as a 1st grader, and it's very disheartening to see. My other point is, in September, while the students couldn't go back to school, we still were able to have contact sports. And I still, to this day, do not understand how we can put sports ahead of school. And I hope that this winter and in this session, that we will put school in front of sports. There shouldn't be no school sports until we get our students in class, in person, 5 days a week. My last point would be, I just had a question regarding the focus groups and who they were, like what kind of students they were made up of. Was it a mixture of students that are doing well, mediocre, and failing, or were they just randomized? I would like to know what kind of focus groups that you used for this research. So if, if it's something that might be in the future, like what's working for students, what's not working for students, especially the ones that are failing. Thank you again for letting me have this time, and I appreciate everyone's hard work, and hopefully we can get back into school 5 days a week. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's one more hand raised. It's possible this, so David Fratchnick, I don't know if you wanted to speak on this or something else. David? All right, so.
Oh, sorry, Kristen. Something else when we're ready. Now's not the time, so that's okay.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other comments from the public, are there any other board member comments? So I was going to save this for the end, but I think it's appropriate to say right now, just because this came up right now. It's not at all related to in-person learning, but it is important to set rumors straight. So I'd like to address the deeply concerning rumor spread today on social media that Board of Education members are calling the employers of our district parents. That rumor is not true. At no time has any board member contacted an RCS parent's place of employment, and that's all I want to say on that. So we have a motion, we've had discussion, and now it's time to vote on our extended COVID-19 learning plan recertification. All those in favor, please unmute and say aye.
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 Opposed? That is a 7-0 vote, and that plan is recertified. Next item on the agenda, item 7.2, Human Resources Report. Beth Davis, if you can walk us through this, please.
Thank you. This evening we have one retirement. Larry Adams, social studies teacher at Rochester High School, submitted his letter of retirement to be effective January 29th, 2021. Mr. Adams has been with the district since December of 1989. We have a recommendation for two new hire teachers. One, Charlotte Oliver, business teacher at Stony Creek High School, and Amy Wetzel, resource room teacher at Delta Kelly Elementary School. We are recommending the appointment of Miss Kathy Evans to the position of Technology Services Specialist. This is an administrative position. Kathy's been in many roles over her 30 years with the Rochester Community Schools, and in the past 5 years has worked in technology as the secretary to the Executive Director of Technology and Strategic Initiatives. In her role, she will be the lead on coordinating projects, office operations, vendor relations, and customer service, along with supporting budget, bond, sinking fund, E-rate, and other programs. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll take a motion to approve the Human Resources Report as presented. Moved by Andrea, seconded by Michelle. Any discussion? Any public comment on this particular item? Seeing none, I will take a vote. All those in favor, please unmute and say aye.
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 Opposed? That's a 7-0 vote. The Human Resources Report is approved. Congratulations to Kathy. Next up is item 7.3, construction contracts. So this is an action item for the board, and Matt McDaniel, if you can please take us through this item.
All right, so in your documents, you should find the detail of 5 sinking fund projects that are being presented for approval. Requests for bids were issued and bids were received for all the projects being recommended tonight. All bids were advertised on the district's purchasing department website, on the State of Michigan Sigma website, on BidNet Direct, and in the Rochester Post. All bids were reviewed and evaluated by the district's construction manager and the director of capital projects. All the accepted bids were found to be initially compliant with the required specifications per the detail in the bid summary, and were analyzed on bid content, completeness, inclusion of required submittals, and compliance with required specifications. Interviews with the lowest bidders in each category included an in-depth evaluation of each bid. The construction manager's recommendation was reviewed by the district's Director of Capital Projects and Purchasing Supervisor. We recommend that the following contracts be awarded. So first we have the Adams High School Athletics and Long Meadow Elementary Playground Project. The district received 16 bids for 4 categories of construction. We recommend the following contracts be awarded. Bid Pack A, Earthwork and Site Utilities to Jacqueline Contracting LLC in the amount of $133,000. Bid Pack B, Concrete to Albanelli Cement Contractors Incorporated, $119,600. C, Fencing to Action Traffic Maintenance in the amount of $46,217. And D, Handrails to Campbell and Shaw Steel in the amount of $37,000. These contract recommendations total $335,817 plus allowance and construction manager fees of $146,597 for a total estimated project cost of $482,414.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the construction contracts as presented. Moved by Barb, I saw first, seconded by Mike. Board discussion or questions on these contracts? Michelle.
I just wondered if Matt or I guess Pete's not on here any longer, but could just tell us what in English, what they're going to be doing at Adams Athletic or at the playground.
Yeah, so if we don't have Pete, Mike.
Yeah, I think Mike, I was just going to say, I think Mike is here. Mike, I think you're unmuted now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So basically this at Adams, there's a soil erosion problem that on the visitor side with the hillside over there, the sand keeps washing out underneath the bleachers and so forth. So the majority of this work is to fix that issue over there around the bleachers at Adams. The other part, the Long Meadow part, is the playground. There's a hill and they have drainage backup problems. It doesn't drain well out by the playground. So again, we're doing some things, putting in a retaining wall and some fencing so that the site drains better. And they have less problems out there during, rain events, etc.
Thank you. And I'd say just sort of a standing question on each of the ones as we go through here as to what it is.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. So those were the only construction contracts tonight. I just want to confirm, Matt.
No,
So
there
that's the
are
first
four
step.
more.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, so I guess we'll just take them all and then we'll take questions about them and then we'll vote on all of them in the end. So I'll take another motion after we're done talking through all of them. Go ahead.
All right. So the next construction contract is for Adams High School courtyard. The district received 9 bids for 2 categories of construction. We recommend the following contracts be awarded. Bid Pack A, Earthwork and Site Utilities to Eagle Excavation in the amount of $166,500. Bid Pack B, Landscaping to Heritage and Company Incorporated, $119,060. These contract recommendations total $285,560 plus allowances and construction manager fees of $143,758 for a total estimated project cost of $428,758.
Okay, so Mike, can you answer Michelle's question about these contracts?
Yes. So there's 2 things happening at Adams Courtyard. First, there's the exterior courtyard at the main entrance. Under heavy rainstorms, the water backs up into the building through those doors. So we're redoing all of the storm piping back out into the parking lot to alleviate that problem. The second issue are the interior courtyards, which our big maintenance problems and also some water issues. So we're reconfiguring them to eliminate maintenance and also clean up some of the drainage issues within them.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, next, Matt.
All right, so next is the Stony Creek High School concession renovation and expansion project. Bid pack A, concrete to McCarthy Construction Company in the amount of $18,055. B, masonry to Connolly Masonry, $8,150. C, carpentry and general trades to City Renovation and Trim, $38,000. D, overhead doors to KVM Door Systems Incorporated, $3,867. E, painting to Bella Paint and Design, $16,000. F, mechanical, Fierst Plumbing, $22,876. G, electrical to RH Electrical Services, $6,850. These contract recommendations total $113,798 plus allowances and construction manager fees of $90,158 for a total estimated project cost of $203,956.
Great.
Pretty
Go ahead,
basic.
Mike.
Pretty basic, just upgrading the concession stand by the football field to meet the health department requirements, and part of it is there's some water work and stuff within the building to make these upgrades possible. So
great. Next up.
All right, so project 4 of 5 is for door, lockers, and operable partitions and replacement. Bid pack, or the district received 15 bids for 5 categories of construction. We recommend the following contracts be awarded. Bid pack A for carpentry, doors, frames, and hardware to Wally Kosorski and Company Incorporated, $133,683. B, aluminum, glass, and glazing to Hewitt Company Incorporated, $241,735. C, painting to Bella Painting and Design, $2,650. D, lockers to Steel Equipment Company, $348,800. E, operable partitions to Urban's Partition and Remodeling Company, $290,286. These contract recommendations total $1,017,154 plus allowances and construction manager fees of $234,258 for a total estimated project cost of $1,251,412.
sorry, I don't know the exact number of schools, but we're replacing interior and exterior doors around the district where they just became in disrepair. I think it's 8 or 10 different schools. Then there's also replacing lockers at both Hart and West Middle Schools. And then there are 4 buildings that are having the operable partition changed between the gym and the cafeteria within, those elementary schools.
Do you know if the lockers are throughout the building or if they're just in the locker rooms?
Throughout the building.
Thank you.
All right, and our final construction award tonight is for mechanical, electrical, plumbing projects and equipment. The district received 2 bids for 2 categories of equipment, and equipment in the 3rd category will be purchased from a consortium bid. We recommend the following contracts be awarded. Bid pack A, mechanical equipment, vertical unit ventilators, AHS, Adams, and Rochester High School, to Bullhouse LLC, in the amount of $1,245,000. Bid pack A, alternate mechanical equipment, horizontal unit ventilators for carrying steps, to Thermalnetics Incorporated, $262,000. And then owner bid package, mechanical equipment, pool dehumidification units, to Train US Incorporated, $504,150. These contract recommendations total $2,011,150 plus allowances and construction manager fees of $217,577 for a total estimated project cost of $2,228,727.
So The mechanical equipment, the first one is for all the vertical unit vents, which are the classroom heating and cooling units at both Adams and Rochester High School. Those were not done during the bond, so they're being done now. The carrying steps, all of those unit ventilators are a different type of unit ventilator. They're horizontal one at the carrying steps facility. And then the last is the pool dehumidification units, which has been done at Rochester, and these are for Adams and Stony Creek. But this is just equipment purchases only. The installation and the other work that goes along with this will be bid. They're brought to you probably in March or April. So we need to get the equipment ordered so we could get it delivered on time.
Thank you, Mike.
Just to follow up on that, Matt, do you know, did we know these needed to be replaced when we were doing the bond work, but just did not have the funding to be able to do those at that time? And we're lucky to have the sinking fund now to be able to cover that?
That's correct. Yes, we were able to do RHS out of the bond funds, but could not complete the other two high schools.
This is great that you've kept a steady course on this work, Matt and Dana and Mike, Pete, the whole team. Thank you. Any other board member questions or comments on these contracts? Seeing none, now I will take a motion to approve all of these contracts as presented. Sorry for that mix up earlier. Moved by Kevin, seconded by Michelle. And we have discussed it. Sorry, I'm out of order a little bit. So I'll take a vote. Please unmute, and all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? None. That is a 7-0 vote, and those projects are approved, and we look forward to seeing those in our school buildings and around our school buildings when they're completed. Our final item under new business is 7.4 change orders, and that is another item for Matt McDaniel.
All right, so change orders are an inevitable part of construction and are issued for a variety of reasons. Some change orders result in savings, actual costs were less than projected, and conversely, some change orders result in additional costs. The change orders being presented tonight relate to the Caring Steps Flooring Project, the University Hills Elementary Project, the Van Hoosen Middle School Project, the Stony Creek High School Project, and to closing out several completed projects. The detail of each change order is included in your board documents. We are recommending the approval of all change orders on completed projects and projects in progress for a total net reduction in costs of $14,153. Projects to date remain within the original overall construction project budget.
Thank you. And I'll take a motion to approve the change orders as presented. Moved by Andrea, seconded by Mike. Discussion or questions about the change orders? Michelle.
Just two quick clarifications. Can you talk about just very briefly what bad soils means at Van Hoosen, and then at Baldwin, were we removing a portable or putting a portable in?
At Baldwin, it was the existing portable was removed. It just did not happen at the original time because of use and that kind of stuff. So it was taken out here at the end. As far as the bad soils, yeah, underneath the parking lots out there, you had some bad spots. We replaced all the parking lots and we pulled up the parking lots. When they did testing of the underlying soils, there was areas that had to be undercut so that, you know, your parking lot did not, you know, its lifespan did not, was not shortened due to the soils underneath it.
I guess I'm looking for clarification. I mean, was there a concern about the soil underneath there that would have any health consequences?
No, it's strictly strength and capacity of the soils to bear the weight of the parking lot and the traffic on the parking lot.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, thanks for being here, Mike. Seeing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor, please unmute and say aye.
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 Opposed? That's a 7-0 vote. That concludes our new business a portion of the meeting. Next up, additional business. We have another opportunity for public comment, citizens present at the meeting. Item 8.1. Again, if you'd like to address the board with comments, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Please begin by stating your name in relationship to the district. When you raise your hand, we will send you a form to fill out, and then we will unmute you. So I have David. Let's see, David Vrachnik.
Hi, Kristen. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, I hear you.
It's Vrachnik. Thank you.
Vrachnik, sorry about that.
My name's Dave Vrachnik. I had a kindergartner and third grader in North Hill. Right now we're homeschooling. It's just a personal choice, but for right now it's working out for us. I really want to focus on this discussion with the RCS District Grading Committee. I understand there was a letter that went out recently. And I want to highlight, in case, Elon Musk. He'll be launching the Starship sometime this week. This is a rocket weighing 120 tons that takes off vertically and lands vertically. This has worked almost the first time, and it ended spectacular. I don't know if Mike had a chance to see this. The Starship will cost in the range of millions of dollars versus billions of dollars per launch. As an engineer with 17 years of experience, I can tell you that this is an amazing accomplishment. Elon Musk has said that accepting the likelihood of failure is an intrinsic part of risk-taking. Essentially, Musk respects risk takers and rewards them when they are successful. Recently, RCS sent out a letter telling parents that they have an option to get a passing grade in lieu of actual letters. Contrary to belief, companies do not hire the students with the straight A's. I don't tell too many high school kids that, but in fact, we like to see students that perhaps had a bad grade. If they can demonstrate how they struggled, they will easily be selected over a straight A student. I have followed this policy when considering people to hire and selecting students for scholarships as an alumni to the University of Michigan. By choosing a pass-fail grade, parents are putting their students at the bottom of the resume pile. Failure is part of life. Walt Disney had said, everyone falls down. Getting back up is how you learn how to walk. By offering a pass-fail grades, RCS is doing a disservice to students, since this is not reflective of real life. And lastly, I really like to, we might not always agree, but I really do appreciate everyone in the community dialing in and participating. This is wonderful to see everyone engaged. Kristen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Let's see. Andrew Weaver.
So, Kristen, I'm going to address your comment. You flat out have been documented as telling lies. And so then you're going to tell us what is and isn't being done? Your credibility does not exist on that topic. And Kevin, for you to interrupt the way you did is absolutely inappropriate. People's lives are being impacted by the decisions. I don't think you guys, again, understand the gravity of the impact you're having on the kids. And then to sit up here and act like you are just going to tell us what to believe and not believe. I don't know where you guys get this idea from. And again, Kristen, you are documented as a liar. And so you don't have the credibility to say that didn't happen. And I will.
Wait a minute, we're being accused. We're being accused of something, and we're responding that it's not true. It's not true.
But when you are a documented liar, you don't have that.
You're saying that doesn't matter. Okay.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
The problem is your data is wrong.
It is your opinion.
It's not an opinion.
Yes, it is.
It's not an opinion. It's a fact.
Yes, it is. Just because you say something didn't happen does not mean it didn't happen. So I will share with you something that did happen. My wife is a teacher. She used to teach for a school. She no longer teaches for that school. Somehow someone found her email from that school. Someone reached out to that school's superintendent and asked if someone by my wife's name worked at that school. Thankfully, the principal is still my wife's friend and informed us of this. You tell me that there's not stuff going on in the district where people are looking at things. There is no reason that anyone would have randomly called a superintendent for my wife's former employer. So Mike, don't sit up here and act like you have credibility anymore.
You're accusing someone on this board of calling somebody's employer, and I'm telling you that did not.
How do you know? How do you know?
Andrew,
how do you know?
Andrew, please.
Because I asked the people on this board.
And because they're documented liars, we have documented the lies of Kristen. We have documented the lies from Shaner, and you keep sitting there and accepting those lies. So you don't have credibility, Mike. You don't have it.
Andrew, we can't, this is not a platform for personal attacks and for shouting. It's just not. And I'm just gonna tell you that, I don't want this to be an ongoing dialogue right here. I have made the statement that I made, and I would like this to be the end of this right now.
And I'm just making sure the community knows that you are a documented liar.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you.
I apologize to my colleagues for my outburst.
No apologies necessary. I don't see any other public comment requests. So I'm going to continue on with the meeting. Members of the administration, comments. Debbie.
Yes, thank you. I would like to invite the community on January 18th. We'll be hosting a day to honor Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy through a variety of virtual learning opportunities throughout the day. We have a keynote speaker that I've had the privilege to have a personal conversation with, Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. He specializes in diversity education, research, and training. It should be a very valuable dialogue. I encourage families to enjoy this. I appreciate the committee, which includes members of our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Parent Network, to help plan MLK read-alouds. We have an essay contest. We have voice tributes, and something very special for all of our children to participate in all-day Crown the King. You share your photos of yourself and your homemade crowns. Take a picture of that, show it on social media. We're inviting you as a community to participate in one or all of the events that day. It's timely, it's important. Also in partnership with the Rochester Public Library, the Detroit Historical Museum, and the Charles Wright Museum. Those are some opportunities. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact the district or our equity director, Anthony Galladay, so that you can participate in this activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. And I apologize, Dave. Your hand was raised before I ended the public comments, so I am going to allow you to unmute right here. You should be able to unmute. This is Dave Recknagel. Yep.
And thank you so much, the board. I just wanted to make some final comments. I wanted to add a little bit more to what I said previously, but in the context of just some reality points. And I can speak to a lot of kids because my kid's schedule, he has activities every night of the week except for Sunday. He's around, okay, I'm not going to go through the schedule per se, but what I want to give you a flavor for, Monday night, he's at least around 20 kids. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, at least 15 to 18. Okay, now they're all wearing masks, except for Monday night, they're not. Thursday and Friday and Saturday, probably upwards to 80 kids on Saturday. And there's a mix of mass and not mass. And probably similar on Friday. And that's been going on for 3 months. The reality is a lot of our kids are doing those activities because, well, I mean, as a parent, I need to keep my kid engaged because he's not getting that engagement through school. So I have to protect other areas of his development to keep him engaged with his friends. We have many of the friends over at our home and vice versa amongst our close, group of parents. That's the reality. And I just wanted to stress that with you. The other piece is since June, I've made 8 flights, 7 different states, 6 different OEMs. And just a sidebar, I don't want to mention the OEM, okay, just out of respect, but they're in South Carolina. You can figure out who they are. Very expensive car. In their paint department, 3/4 of their employees don't wear masks, and they haven't been. I have a on-site technical representative there. They don't wear them. It's their choice. So what I'm saying is there's different levels of sensitivity, and I'm sensitive to everyone and what they believe and what they think, but I'm living it. I'm living it with a team of 20, 30 people across North America. I'm living it in many states. And I don't know if any of you travel to different states or have experienced it, but people are doing it very safe. And I just leave that with you because every day that clicks and goes by, our kids don't get that time back every single day. So I would just encourage you as you guys conclude your meetings and you continue to meet and you look at ways to bring our kids back forward, just keep that in the back of your mind. You don't get that time back. It's gone. Thank you for your time, Kristen. I appreciate it. You guys have a very hard job to do. I'm sensitive to that, and I respect that. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks. Members of the Board of Education, any comments or announcements?
I think there was one other person that wanted to talk.
We're good. Announcement. I guess if no one else has any comments, I'll just say to close this meeting, I mean, this is not a place for personal attacks and it's not a place for shouting. It's a place for all of us to work together, the community, the board, the administration. I appreciate a lot the parents who bring offers to help to the table. We do appreciate all comments and feedbacks. Even if our community doesn't agree with us, we appreciate the feedback. We truly do. We appreciate the community comments. This is how we'll get through all of this in the end, and we need to work together. It needs to be a respectful environment, though. Coming up, January 15th is the last day of the semester. January 18th and 19th, no school. January 18th, MLK holiday, and we do have activities for the community, as Debbie had outlined. January 20th is when our classes resume in a remote environment. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:16. Moved by Andrea, seconded by Kevin. All those in favor, please unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That is a 7-0 vote, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.